what it will do is it will tag this data area as unallocated. Even though it was allocated previously, it will tag that, okay, the current flag is unallocated, but that data will still reside on the hard drive, right? So next time, let's say you are writing a different file, which is F2. So it might happen that because NTFS sees that, okay, data is available, data area is available, and because it is tagged as unallocated, what might happen is that the F2 data might end up in this area, data area itself. And if it ends up, the old data will be removed, and it will either overwritten or it will be kind of removed. Okay, so that's what the flag means: unallocated and allocated. Unallocated is something like once if the file has been deleted, the NTFS mark that data area section as unallocated, so that other files can kind of utilize that for reading or writing. And if it is allocated, no other file can kind of access that. They can't kind of delete the data without the user consent. Okay, and let's say this file was allocated, this chunk was allocated to file 1, and the file was not deleted. So if you are trying to write a different file, it is F2, that data might end up, let's say, here. It will not overwrite the file 1, but it will write a different, it will search for a different space and then write the content of that file over here. Okay, so I hope you got an idea, like what are the different components that comes into action, by which you can recover the files if a file has been deleted from the NTFS file system. Okay, so this is all about the NTFS file system, and let me see if I have few other things to kind of discuss. So guys, I'll just kind of quickly grab some water actually, and then I'll quickly come back. And thing is that I will do have some more theory part on the NTFS file system. There are a few things that I like to discuss, like more details about what allocated means, what unallocated means, and a few other things like what actually happens when you delete a file and how you can kind of recover, and then certain core feature of NTFS. Okay, so we'll quickly go through that one by one. A little bit theory part, but it is actually, I think, guys, it is more important to kind of get a kind of have a quick knowing about that. Okay, and then we'll kind of proceed with the lab analysis part once we have covered a few things about the artifacts thing. Okay, just give me 2 minutes. I'll just quickly grab some water. Okay, guys, so let's now resume our discussion. So for the NTFS file system, we had a vague idea now, like what happens when the file was deleted. And I was talking about allocated and unallocated. So let me just quickly give some more detail about allocated. So what allocated means is that the first thing is that data block, this data block is actively used by the file. So if there's any kind of data area and if it has a flag of allocated, so that means that data block is actively used by any file of by the file. So it can't be kind of overwritten by any other file. So that's one thing. And so it also means that data exists in the file system and it is not deleted. Okay, no other file, let's say F2, can override the file. If a new file is being written, it won't be overwriting the existing file. That's one thing. Unallocated means, again, like the data that is residing on the disk. The data that is residing on the disk is not allocated to any file, and may contain, and this data might contain the data of the files that were deleted previously. So let's say you were doing any investigation and you want to see, okay, what all files are there, all the images that are there in the operating system. And what will happen is that, let's say the employee deleted a few of the JPG file from the NTFS file system, and you got hold of the file system. So you can actually recover the data from there of that JPG file. Okay, because if there was no file that was written after the files were deleted, that most probably that area will still be kind of holding the old data of the JPG file that was deleted. So you can recover and kind of see, okay, what file was there, what that JPG file image was all about. Okay, from this. So that's what like allocated and unallocated means. And let me just go to the thing. Now there's another thing called as wipe. Okay, there's another thing called as wipe. So wipe actually means is that when you say wipe, let's say there are two terms. One is like deleting, and one is wiping. Okay, deleting and wipe. So what's the difference between them? The first difference is that when you delete the file, that the data of that file is still there, and it will be there till the point it has not been overwritten by someone else. Okay, so that is what deleting means. So you can recover that. And when someone says that, okay, you need to wipe the data, so what will happen is that we need to wipe the data. So what will happen is that before the file gets deleted, let's say the file F1 was getting deleted. So what will happen is it will also overwrite the content of that file. So let's say, for an example, if I am wiping this data, so what will happen is that it will actually override this file with some different junk content, maybe let's say with all with zeros, all with one, or with some random data, so that file is not can't be recovered the next time by any kind of tool. Now there are certain standards for wiping too. One of the things is that if you just wipe it once on the normal system, you can feel free to kind of you can be confident that your file can't be kind of recovered by someone else. Okay, but there are certain hardwares in place which is like normally not used for like normal investigation, which is normally used by high-end investigation done by like governments and all, where what they can do is that using that hardware, they can actually, like, even though you have wiped the data, for an example, they will be able to figure out what the file was previously. Okay, it actually works at electron level. So like magnets has one and zeros. So if you so what happens is that it does some really deep analysis of the electrons, spinning of the electrons, and from there it can figure out, okay, what was the old spinning of that electron even after it was wiped, and from there you can figure out, okay, what was the data present before. So those hardwares are really kind of like very costly, not available to the end user like public user. It's all only for the government to kind of deal with very high end investigation cases. But yeah, like those hardwares are kind of existing in the in the world, like so yeah, so that's the thing. Like there are multiple kind of hardwares which we don't have access to, but it can be used by the government to kind of even like they can recover the files. But in normal scenario, if you're wiping, like what for me, as a like when I was an incident response, when there was a certain drive that I want to investigate, if that drive was kind of wiped at least once, we don't do any kind of investigation. We just I just close the investigation saying that there is no way to recover the data if the drive has been kind of wiped. Okay, we don't use any kind of specialized hardware to kind of figure out what was the old data from there. Okay, so that's one thing that so this term is something which we should know whenever we are dealing with any kind of forensic investigation. What's the difference in deleting and wiping? Okay, now let me just quickly go to that and